as I'm both doing kind of double duty host and presenter, see if anyone has any questions.
How about you give us kind of like a top 3 contrast between big budget versus indie for each one of those 3 areas?
Cool, sure thing. So the question is how to show maybe the difference between kind of big budget and low budget in writing film and audio. So I'd say for writing, generally, most people that are doing kind of ebooks, they're doing them themselves on kind of a free program on either PC or Mac. And generally that looks like just writing your stuff out in like a Word doc or something, putting some kind of picture on the front with the title, exporting it as a PDF and uploading it to their website, and then just trying to let people know about it. And that's a great way to just get started. It's a great way to get some social proof of, I have a book. I have a definitive philosophy or teaching style or method. If you have a professional, whether it be a publishing company or agent or manager or something, when it comes to putting like a book out, it's going to look very different because you're going to submit drafts to an editor. They're going to give you all kinds of notes and things. And that process may take months or even years back and forth until the editor feels like the book is done. So it's a little bit out of your hands, but generally speaking, it will help you. And then once the book is done, it goes through this whole post-production style thing of copy it into the book, figuring out the layout, what kind of type does it want to be, what kind of format is it. You'll probably put out multiple formats, hardcover, softcover, ebook, Kindle, etc. There'll be some kind of marketing campaign. You'll probably do interviews, promotions, blah, blah, blah. So at the end of the day, you have a book out in both situations. It's just a matter of how big and small that is. For indie film versus kind of what most people would call like Hollywood filmmaking, again, same thing. If you are in the industry and you're working for a studio, there's going to be a huge amount of support and money. And there are both advantages and disadvantages to that because there's a lot of people that have say in what you do because they're paying for it. And you can have big stunts and big explosions and special effects and big casts and professional everybody, but there's also a lot of cooks in that kitchen. So that's another reason I like indie film, because you can be like the writer, director, producer, cinematographer, editor, all yourself. And if you have a definitive vision, for better or worse, you get to really hone it, shape it, create it, and guide it. But that means usually you don't have as many resources and not as much money, so sometimes it can be difficult. And usually it'll take a long time to get a film made. But again, you're totally in charge. So it sort of depends on the scope of your project, but also how much you're willing to collaborate or not with other people. And when it comes to audio, most podcasts, even if you're part of a podcast network, you're making it yourself, and then you're just uploading it, and the network helps promote you. And if you're putting a podcast out by yourself, you're just doing it on your own and then promoting it on your own. When it comes to music, similarly to film, if you're an indie musician or singer-songwriter, you're probably recording everything at your house, or maybe you have your friend or somebody has a studio you can record in, and then you're uploading it to YouTube and all these different platforms and trying to just spread the word. But if you have a manager, an agent, or you're signed to a record label, they will do all that for you, just like the movie studio would for film production. So that's a quick overview of kind of like the indie version versus professional version of all three. Hopefully that was helpful. Anyone else have any other questions on anything, whether it's making content, social media stuff, promotion, getting organized, or putting stuff out?
How do you decide if you're gonna hire somebody to do something versus DIY it?
Great question. The simplest thing, if you are indie, in which pretty much everybody that's listening to this will be, is it comes down to time versus money. If you have no money, then probably you'll have to do everything yourself. If you have no time, then probably you have to hire somebody. Most people are in the middle, and they have some time and they have some money, but they are trying to balance the two. And so my recommendation just in general to anyone making anything is take the time and save the money on the things that you know that you're good at or you can do well, or at least you're willing to figure out how to do it on your own. And for things that you can't stand, that drive you crazy, that you have no idea how to do, those are things much better left to someone that can just come in and handle it for you. So for instance, if you love to write, but you hate to edit, then find someone who either wants to edit your book for free or wants to at least read it, or maybe they want to become an editor and they need the experience. They're willing to do it for cheap or for free. And you can just hand that off, and then they can, within a timely manner, hopefully, give you back a completed edit of the book, and you don't have to do it. And then you just read their edits and rewrite whatever sections you may need to do. If you're the complete opposite, you're like, I don't want anyone to see this book until it's done, then maybe you read it and you edit it yourself and you rewrite it as many times as you need. But while you're doing that, you could hire someone to design the book cover for you, and then you don't have to worry about the book cover. So again, there's a lot of different versions of that, but really it's just get super clear with yourself. What am I good at? What do I like to do? What am I not good at? What do I hate? And again, that like and not like doesn't really matter. What really matters is if this is going to drive me crazy and yell at my kids, that may not be worth it. Just hand that off to someone else. Your stress, anger, and domestic bliss is much more important than the $200 you had to pay for somebody to do that thing.
Can you frame a budget like, small, medium, large, DIY? Is there any way for people to budget for some of those things?
Sure thing, yeah. So generally speaking, things are going to cost more than you think. And partly that's because there are aspects of creating things that you may not have thought of. For film, especially, a lot of times people come up with a budget, and that's how much it takes to make something. And they don't think of having a budget for post-production, editing, music, sound design, color correction, distribution at all. And so they'll say, oh, I can make this movie for $5,000. And the other portion of that is having a contingency. So, well, if everything goes exactly according to plan, maybe you can make it for $5,000, but really you need 6 or 8, because there's probably going to be someone doesn't show up. You didn't realize there was some kind of a fee for something, or it takes an extra week to make the movie. Everybody gets parking tickets, whatever it is, things come up that you didn't plan for. But also you're paying for, like I mentioned, the editing, the music, the sound design, the color correction, the distribution, all that stuff. So again, it all goes back to that 3-part. It may take you 3 months to write the script and 3 more months to get the film organized. So part of the budget is paying for yourself, or at least your gas and your coffee or whatever else, for all of that prep time, as well as the production, making it time, as well as the post-production, finishing it time. And that works for everything, audio and writing. If you're doing a podcast, it may be, an hour or 2 of emailing back and forth and getting in the phone a couple times and advertising and trying to get a guest organized. And there's a cost to that time. You may need to buy a microphone. You may need to buy some software. You may need to upgrade your internet connection so you have quality connection through Zoom or whatever you're going to do the interview through. There might be other equipment you need to get, such as editing software. You might need to learn how to do it. You might need to pay an editor to edit it for you. So all those things you may not have thought of are part of the creation. But again, you now have the interview. You might be able to edit it yourself, but how are you going to put the intro and outro together? Are you going to have music or not? Do you have the rights to the music? Do you need to buy the music? And then also, how do you put the podcast out? Do you need to pay to join a podcast platform? Are there any other costs to putting it out? How are you about it. So when it comes to the costs of things, it's not so much a low or a high, because you can probably find someone to do stuff for free. And you can probably find somebody that that costs $1,000 an hour. It doesn't really matter how inexpensive or expensive like an hourly rate is. What's more important is breaking things down into those three parts. How much is it going to cost for me to do the pre-production organization to make this thing? How much is it going to cost for me to actually make it? How much is it going to cost for me to do the post-production and finish it? Add those three together, put in a 10% contingency, and then you have your actual cost. So that could be $100 total, or it could be $10,000 total. It doesn't really matter the dollar amount. It matters that you think about all three sections, every part of all three sections, adding a contingency just in case, and then come up with an accurate estimate. And if you can find people for free or something, that estimate may go down. But it's better to err on the side of caution, put contingencies in, set yourself up for success, because I've seen a lot of people get derailed mid-project because they ran out of money. And then, 6 months later, they're still trying to come up with another $5,000 so they can finish. And then, someone moves across the country and, well, now my lead actor is gone. So what do I do? Do I buy a plane ticket to bring them back, which now means I maybe need another $1,000 because they don't live here anymore? Or do I scrap the project, and now I don't have anything to show for it? So if you set yourself up for success in a budget, it requires a little bit of homework. So I can't give you specific numbers, but that, just like putting a budget together for a business, is a really important thing to figure out. So may not be the answer you were looking for, but I hope that was helpful, at least conceptually. So I want to talk a little bit about what sometimes people will ask me, which is, what can I use to make things with? And one of the things I always point people to is the resources you have at hand. And it doesn't matter if you have a PC or a Mac, pretty much everybody has one or the other. They come loaded with free programs. And pretty much even your phone has some kind of both video, audio, or text program to record. Again, whether you're typing something out, recording a voice, or recording some kind of visual. They will all have some version of an editing software as well. So I encourage you to just start with what you have. And again, you can go to YouTube University and learn how to use those programs. For a Mac, it's really easy. It comes with iMovie, and you can very simply walk yourself through learning it. It's very intuitive, and edit video or even photos into like slideshows and things. And they have GarageBand to edit music or audio, like if you're doing a podcast. And they have, Pages, which is basically Word, and enables you to write things and put it into layouts. They have different book formats and all kinds of stuff. And a PC has all the same things. So rather than say, what program do I need to buy? I say, what kind of computer do you have? Look at what comes standard on that computer, figure out how to use those things, and you don't need to buy anything. If you realize you love writing and you love publishing books and you want to put a book out like every year for the rest of your life, it may be worth investing in some professional software, but you don't need to do that right now. Same with video or audio. There's no reason to go buy some $1,000 or more professional audio or video editing software and taking 6 months learning how to use it. Start where you are, which is, I'm a beginner. I've never done this before. I'm going to use a simple program. And then once I kind of get my feet under me, then I can make the decision. Because again, remember, where do you go next? Okay, I'm going to look back on the experience of making this thing and then decide, do I pivot? Do I buy some more stuff? Or do I just upgrade my skills? So I don't see any more questions in the chat. So I'm going to just conclude by talking a little bit about the big film festival that's coming up the end of July that I have been a part of for the last 7 years. It's called the AOF MegaFest, and it's the 17th year. AOF stands for Action on Film, and when it started 17 years ago, that's exactly what it was. It was a film festival for stunt movies, action movies, martial arts movies, things kind of celebrating action in the cinema. And it has since grown, hence the Mega Fest, because there are 12 or 15 different film festivals now, each with their own kind of genre or audience in mind. So there's a Christian film festival, short film, feature film, international, experimental. There's a film festival just for kind of documentaries and true stories, and everything in between. They also have a writers festival, a music festival, and this year we're having a Comic-Con as well. So it's essentially a multimedia event which lasts for a week. And we actually have an entire theater this year. So we have 8 screens running from noon to midnight. And we're showing over 700 films, which sounds like a lot, but of course, half of them are short films. So you might be able to show 20 shorts in 2 hours. And then the next 2 hours, you show 1 feature. But it is going to be an incredible event. And for people who haven't been part of something like that, I really encourage you to check it out. You can go to actiononfilmfest.com. That's actiononfilmfest.com, and check it out. I'm in charge of theater operations this year, so I'll be there for about 10 days, liaising between all the festival directors and the speakers and the seminars and the writers and the musicians, as well as the theater staff, to ensure that everything starts on time and runs well. So I'll get to meet a lot of people, and just like a comic convention or any kind of business convention, it's a great place to network and help build a team. So part of next steps is like, okay, where do I go from here? What do I do next? Who do I need? What do I need? Going to an event like this is a wonderful way to say, I'm going to go to this event looking for a composer because I need music for my project. Or I am a composer and I need somebody who needs music for their project because I make music. And going can not only inspire you because you get to see a lot of other creatives and the work that they have made, which may give you new ideas, but it's also a great way to just have a good time. And if you are a writer, you may be inspired by watching some movies. If you're a musician, you might strike up a friendship with an author and find out maybe they can help you with lyrics or something like that. So you never know exactly what can happen. But I encourage people, again, if you're in business or the arts, it doesn't matter. Go to conventions, meet people, make alliances, see if you can help each other with connections or swap teaching or programs, all kinds of great benefits in all of those, as well as having a good time and getting inspired by other people's output. Because just like with someone else's film, giving you inspiration for a new story idea, you can go to a convention and see somebody's product or new business and get a new idea for some kind of startup or a business of your own. So it's not relegated just to content or creation as far as the arts go. And I'm really excited this year because I actually have 3 feature films coming out. lcapwedding.com is where you can rent or purchase my feature from last year, which of course that festival was canceled or postponed, I should say. This year they're running a dual festival. 2020 and 2021 are both happening in 2 weeks. And so the film that was supposed to come out last year, El Cap Wedding, is now coming out this year. And that is the story of the world's first wedding on El Capitan in Yosemite National Park, which was my wife and I getting married on a ledge 300 feet off the ground. And it documents the entire process of how that came into fruition. I'm also excited to announce we're launching the original soundtrack to coincide with the release of the film in 2 weeks. So that's really exciting. And then I have 2 features coming out this year, which are both anthologies, which essentially means it's a series of short films. One is 6 short climbing films shot and released over 10 years, predominantly from Yosemite National Park. And that is called Climb On. And that'll also be premiering at AOF. And then the second is called Sydney Stories, and it's 13 short films shot over 3 years in Australia, where I went to film school and stunt academy. And it represents international cast and crew on various projects shot all over the city. And again, kind of put together as a little love letter to Sydney, to Australia, and to all the people I knew when I was there. And I hope that some people will be able to go to Las Vegas and see those live in the theater on the big screen, because it is a culmination of 15 plus years worth of work. And it just goes to show that sometimes it takes a while for things to get completed. But as long as you keep going, at some point, you can get stuff done and get stuff out. So whether you go to AOF or any other convention or festival, I hope you go to one near you and you have a great time. So to wrap up, thank you for your attention. I hope that this talk about being a creator and making content was helpful. Again, if you want any information on my course or to contact me, go to shaneborza.com. And if you'd like to have more information about the Solve Network, you can contact me at shaneborza@gmail.com. If you join our mailing list, I'll be able to let you know what upcoming speakers are going to be talking and when. And if you are an expert and would like to be one of our guest experts and give a presentation yourself, we would love to hear from you. So on behalf of my co-founder and business partner and friend, Benjamin Goss, thank you for joining us, and we will see you on the next call.